Alright, I want to talk to you guys about just different types of forages that we commonly feed horses. I've got 4 samples here. What I want to focus on during this short video is just the differences between legume and grasses. So you have a general understanding in terms of the nutrient value, average nutrient value for these types of forages. Again, we can classify those forages into 2 types in terms of a legume versus a grass. And then, of course, we've got the same type of processing that can be done in terms of the horse consuming it as a fresh pasture, which would have a higher water content, and then in a dried format in terms of a hay format. So we have, here I have an alfalfa hay, I have a Sudan grass hay, which is not something we commonly feed horses, but I just wanted to show an example in terms of differences and the structure of the leaf and stem. And then I have 2 samples here of Bermuda grass hay or coastal. And so again, I just want to kind of go over in terms of just general characteristics so you guys are familiar. A lot of you guys are probably familiar in terms of what a legume looks like. This is alfalfa specifically. Again, for the most part, what we're seeing a lot of leaf rather than a blade. Depending on the stage of harvest, we can see various portions of the flower coming up, and so this is essentially the later earlier portions of the flowering portion of the plant, and alfalfa presents a really pretty purple flower when it's starting to bloom. Okay, there is some debris in this sample here, and we're going to talk about forage quality in an upcoming lab, and we're going to talk. This is important to make note of when we evaluate samples, because this can actually discount the quality and in terms of what's present and how many. But you can see the stem on a legume tends to be more rigid, but there is more of it's a leaf type of plant, and it usually grows in a bunch formation, and so they have a single root system with each individual plant. Okay, and again, we're going to talk about in terms of quality of the forage in an upcoming lecture or lab, where we're going to actually go in terms of the coarseness and so forth, the coloring and everything. But what I really want you to take away from here is the actual characteristics of the plant itself. Okay, this next one is Sudan grass. So we just talked about a legume. This is Sudan grass, and I included, again, Sudan grass is not something we commonly feed horses. It's more for ruminant animals. It is a pretty common forage down here in Texas in the southern states, but Sudan grass is a very broad, very thick type of leaf, very broad, almost like a hollow, almost like a straw-like texture to the stem itself. It packs really well in terms of processing, so it does harvest very well and pack into processing into a dried format. But I really want you to kind of just understand the differences in terms of the size of the leaf. Very broad and flat when processed. Okay, we can see some of the seed residuals here. See if I can find one again here. Here's one right here. This is part of a seed here. And so for the most part, what we're looking at here is mainly the stem and the leaf composition. Again, we're going to be coming back to quality of forage in an upcoming lab, but I want to just show you this one so you have an understanding how it might differ from likely the most common type of grass that we have horses foraging on here in Texas. And this would be a cultivated grass, so this would be something that it is a native species, but it's not something that we would, we would actually plant this in pasture. So I'm not talking about native types of grasses such as little barley or rescue grass or ryegrass, which we've discussed in terms of different types of forages. So this is a grass here. The stem is very thin, okay, very different in size compared to, I'm going to take this back to the legume, where it tends to be much thicker. So you can see kind of the differences here. This is the quality is a little different in these 2 samples here compared to the alfalfa. And again, we're going to be talking about quality in an upcoming lecture. But with the leaf portion of a grass, it's a blade formation. Okay, that's part of it right there. Let me back it up so you can kind of focus in. Very broad, and it's a blade in terms of the characteristics, so it's not a leaf. This is an actual seed head for the coastal, and coastal comes out in long fingers. That's the best way I can describe it. Let me turn it around so you can kind of see it. So that's the actual seed head to coastal right here. The seed head comes off, will essentially be the tallest portion of the plant if you let it seed out. And as you can see, very long fingerlings. So this would be the seed portion of the plant. This is the best way to identify it, is looking for that specific seed head. This is another example here of, let me pull it out just a little bit, of coastal. Okay, so this is a coastal plant. We've got some weeds growing in this one here. But this is an example here of coastal. Another example here, again, very broad in the leaf configuration. And we're going to be talking about this type of the differences between these two, and then also between, the quality of these in an upcoming lecture. But I do want you to understand in terms of legumes versus grasses, and we've got two types of grasses and one type of legume for you to look over.